for once, we actually have tool sets that can let artists really express themselves truly with the power of beautiful images. In the past, we haven't had that. Everything has been a compromise, and it's always been this and this, and it's just like early stage of film. Early cinema wasn't engaging. It didn't have, everything was locked off. Everything was very static, and the frame, the film didn't look that good either. So this is an evolution, and I would say this is truly a groundbreaking moment for us, for Radiant. We've looked at all the virtual reality cameras. We've looked at all the other systems. There's nothing out there that can truly say cinematic. And the reason we say the word cinematic so confidently is because you have the tools that cinematographers are used to, which is controlling light, controlling aperture, controlling every aspect of it. How much NDs I put in the cameras, how much aperture control we have, where we select focus. All of these are right back in the cinematographer's hand. The other important tool is editors and post-production. We're giving them tools that they're used to working with again. They're working with time code, they're working with Genlock, they're working with color correction tools, color spaces they haven't had for a while. So for us, it is truly a groundbreaking experience, and I could not thank ARRI enough. I mean, we only had a rig. Now we have a system. And that's because of what you guys have put in there. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the functions and features of this new rig. First of all, the method of how we designed this, it's based on platonic solids. These are geometry. These are hexagons and octagons. These are every building block that from our atoms all the way to the universe. This is how we build things. So we actually didn't create anything. All we did is we followed the laws of physics and geometry. We positioned cameras in a very equidistance, and this allows us to recapture a sphere. If you want to create a perfect soccer ball, this is how you do it. These building blocks capture a perfect sphere. Once you capture a perfect sphere, in post, you just want to reproject it. And once you reproject it, that's how you get a perfect sphere. And that's what our editors told us when they were able to stitch this. They were able to capture this without doing any geometry fixes. Again, we've learned that from our 3D days, you shoot it right. You don't try to force it in post, and that's what we've done in the past. So these building blocks are the least amount of material you'll ever need to create a spherical. But it's not just a sphere, because you can actually break these apart, and this could become a half a sphere or quarter sphere. It could be used for plate shots. So if you want to have 3 cameras shooting, they'll all be equidistant. And so that's that, and inside the rig we have our power management system, and then everything else is what ARRI's contributed with Sub 5, which allows us to go to the camera, and now I'm able to control all the shutters simultaneously together. Here, I also have aperture control, so I'm able to control all aperture control on all cameras globally. The other thing that Radiant's working on is the back end on the stitch. So how do you stitch all these footages together? Because we have a perfect entrance pupil for each camera, we know exactly where each camera is going to be positioned no matter what. As long as they put a camera in there, your camera's in there. We have an algorithm that we've loaded in a cloud. You upload your footage to a cloud, it'll stitch it, and it'll come back down. We'll be ready to make it an official product, I'd say fourth quarter of 2017. But that'll be a service that your content creators could use. They don't have to go through a complexity of stitching all these 10 cameras. They can just upload it to a cloud, it'll stitch it, and it'll come back down as a stitch file. The rig itself, all in, it's about 60 pounds, and all in, without the camera. So all with the camera, it's just about 70. Yeah, let's do it. So,
total with the cameras.
With the cameras, it's about 85 pounds. 85 pounds. Yeah. 2 block batteries power the camera for about an hour. So we have 12 volt and 14. Inside the rig, we're doing all of these processing and wirelessly transmitting. Basically, all you have to do is connect the cables and the rig turns on. You don't have to go and try to set up wireless, connect this, and that's the system we want to give filmmakers, something that's simple and take the complexity out so they can just go out there and shoot. if you notice on top, you see that little antenna on top? That's what we call ambisonic sound. That actually creates spatialized sound, and there's nothing better than creating sound right from the camera source. So instead of putting another recorder in here and complexing it, everything gets recorded into A camera and our D camera. So it records directly into the cards. So when we get the lenses, they're all equal, matched, and then what we do is we lock those lenses so they don't move. In the future, these will have a carbon fiber plate on it, and you'll just be able to adjust focus. So the main differentiation between this is the rig itself is the fact that it captures a perfect sphere. So you don't have to create, you have to fix any geometry errors. But the main difference is that NDs are built into the rig. Your iris control, you have all the cinematic control. You're shooting 4K from each camera. So combined stitch, we're extremely conservative. We're not going to make crazy claims like other rig manufacturers do or camera manufacturers do. We're claiming 12K resolution. You can get way more than that, but that's what you guys should say. 12K resolution altogether, because it's 4K times 10 with the overlap. We're saying with tool sets that normal people have that they can buy, affordably, 12K resolution is your combined stitch.
If you don't mind, the other key thing is the dynamic range, because in VR, you can't control the lighting.
Yeah, and instead of saying it, we shot that. So what we did is we shot extreme highlights. We went to the most extreme, which is shooting ocean, everything on the water's clipping, the SART, and we also did complete opposite. We went into late night downtown LA just shooting cars. So we went to the polar opposites, and that's something we've never had in VR. In VR, we're dealing with very small sensors, tiny sensors. There is no aperture control. The only way you could control aperture is through shutter. What happens when you do that with shutter? Everything feels very jaggedy. We shot directly in bright sun, right? And that camera is going right into the sun, and we're able to preserve it because of its dynamic range. I could not do that with most cameras. What most cameras would do, they would expose just for that, and everything else would just suffer. So now we have that kind of dynamic range where you can hold on to extreme highlights and go all the way to the shadows.
And one other thing to point out, maybe with SUP5, we obviously have the master-slave relationship with the cameras. So one is the master, all the other cameras are slave. As Michael demonstrated, you can basically control the internal IR and D filters. But with the EF mount, you can also change the aperture.
Here it is.
Which Michael was just mentioning. Is
All the lenses together.
Look at this. All the apertures controlled together wirelessly through an app or right here, right on the camera. And that's the beauty thing. You just walk up to the camera and use it. And the thing that we should also recognize, it doesn't have to be VR. It's just based on multi-camera capture. And that's where we're mostly interested, because it's not just about virtual reality. You have to think about how do you capture entire stadiums, volumetric, and all these plate shots, all these things. It keeps expanding. And then also viewing methods for this. And that's why we're constantly saying about bigger than life. We have a dome outside right next to our booth. It's a 26-foot dome, 8-meter dome. We're going to project the stuff that we shot with your cameras in that dome. You watch it in that dome. That's where resolution really makes a difference. Where we realize that the new frontier is you have to be a solution provider for filmmakers and creatives beyond filmmaking too. We start at filmmaking, but we don't end at filmmaking. We go all the way through. In order to be a true collaborator with filmmakers and content creators, you can't just hand them a rig. You have to be able to walk them through the entire process. We go through the entire stitching process. We go through the entire build process. So we help them all the way through. So we're a lot more of a technology partner to production companies and content creators.
And I have to ask.
But we do it through a rental mechanism to make it really clean and simple. But we do offer these rigs for sale. We offer them in different sizes. So we have a small size, which is a 7-inch ball, 10-inch ball that fits the smaller cameras like the Sony UMCs, the 23-inch ball that holds all Alexa minis. They're offered in 3 different materials: carbon fiber, aluminum, and magnesium. So we'll have this in magnesium, and that'll be about 40% lighter. So it's much, much lighter. Stitching software that we use is an $800 software that's off the shelf. It's called AutoPan Pro. We use that. that's the beauty about it. You don't need, and that's why we're saying 12K resolution.
AutoPan Pro?
AutoPan Pro.
800 bucks?
800 bucks. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to make sure, you know, like you can get 24K resolution out of these cameras, but we want to make it available to everyone. And what most people can afford and they want to experiment with, they're not going to go buy $50,000 software and buy an infrastructure, and, you know, invest in infrastructure, but they will slowly experiment and try that. We want to make sure that people realize that it's not just these solitude experiences. There's 360 through Facebook, there's YouTube, there's all these other viewing methods, and then we call it from handsets to headsets to domes. So yeah, so we're doing an A to Z from capture as well as A to Z to viewing mechanisms. You could walk right up to the camera. As a matter of fact, if you're watching that monitor, you could see my hand here, right there, and you could see me here and there and up there. So I can come really close to this camera. I can come actually this close here, except when I come in between the seams. In between the seams, you have to be, I'd say, 15, 20 feet away. We did a commercial for a major automotive manufacturer. They're doing massive dome projection, not a 360, not up. They're just doing 30-foot walls, and they're projecting it all in a circle. For that one, we actually use a 24-millimeter lens. Because we just wanted the maximum amount of resolution and closest pop, you know, get the cars going by. So we didn't want a fisheye for that. So you don't have to use.
Minimum distances.
It's a little bit further, but what we were dealing with was something that was controlled, so we knew where that's going to be. But just like you tell your actors, they can walk right up to the thing. They just can't cross to a thing. Or if they do, you have to position something. Maybe it's a post, maybe there's a pillar, maybe there's a tree, maybe there's something else there. That's why we say, like, production design for virtual reality is your best friend, because that's where you really fine-tune things and you really make things happen. But for most, the right answer to your question is also, it depends how much you want to spend in post. You can get really close to the camera. Just that's what we're giving you, that's claimed like 15, 20 feet away. That's probably the most comfortable, not the most expensive. Because if you keep coming closer, you have to rotoscope you out. And then the closer you become, the more we have to do a lot of work. So